G'day everyone, and here we are. We're going to build a flat track nationals bike. We have a brand new CRF 450R 2026 model, but as you can see, I have already pulled the suspension out of this and the wheels to be sent away to be set up, as I was in a rush to get it out of there. But what we're going to do today, as this bike's only got about 3 hours on it or so, we're going to just run it in, and while I've got all the suspension and everything out of it, we're going to go through and grease everything in this bike, because as a lot of you know, there is next to no grease in these bikes. So what we'll start off with, we'll start with greasing the steering stem here, and before I put it all back together, I have a steering down the mount and everything on this bike, just to help with the handling and everything else of this bike. So we'll get into it. As you can see, surprisingly, there actually is some grease in here from the factory. I actually thought they didn't have much at all, which that's surprisingly probably enough to warrant putting that back together as it is. Even those bearings in there, it's not quite packed in there. But... So yeah, as you can see, there is probably enough grease in here. I'll just try and push a little bit into the bearing around there. That way you can actually get it in behind the bearing, so a lot of it's just smeared on around the outside, not in the back of it. So try and push that in there as much as we can. The top hat is nut, so we'll sit that in there. I'll just grab some of this extra grease, just smear it around there a little bit. Sit that in there. There's plenty of grease, put that in the water. Knock all the dust off it. Then we'll sit that in there. Grab the steering stem. So again, I'll just wipe the excess grease off it there. Nut. Feed that back up in there, push that down, put the nut on. Now there probably is a certain torque for this nut here, but I'm just going to go right feel with a hammer and a punch. Probably don't need it ridiculously tight as I've got a steering bearing up. Feels not too bad. So then I get the top clamp, swing that back on. That's like that. Just sit on there 2 seconds, grab the nut, and I'll just spin this nut on, as I still didn't put the steering out there on. I don't have all the mounting hardware for it yet. Hopefully should have that by in a few days. We'll just sit down there. As you can see with the Hondas always have a dot on them here, and the dots on the handlebars will always go to the front. Make sure that's always like that. And then you always do the front bolt up. I'll just sit in there a bit because they're going to come back off shortly. That's the steering stem done. We got pretty lucky with actually having grease in it. I was surprised on how much grease. We'll make a start on getting the leakage out of this, and also on a swing arm, because they're notorious for no grease. I pulled the shock bolt out of this earlier, and they will bone dry. So just one of the biggest things is make sure you do pull these burning blocks apart and grease everything. as you can see on this bolt, there is absolutely zero grease on that bolt, and that came out of the link. Left my screwdrivers at work, so we're back to the pink mono specials. Oh.
Hell yeah.
The axle for the swing arms has come out and it is bone dry. Not a single bit of grease on it. Okay, so I've got all the linkage out of this bike, the swing arm and the link. And as you can see, I'll just pop the seal out. And hopefully none of the ball bearings come out, the rollers. There is very little grease inside of that. And one thing you need to be careful of is make sure those rollers in there don't fall out and go everywhere, because you'll never ever find them all. Yeah, there is next to no grease on this swing arm one, and also down in there, as you can see. Absolutely none. I'll sit that there, push this one out too. Right, so get some grease, get a fresh tub here, and get it. And you just smoosh it all in there. Don't be shy with it. Make sure we get it all in the rollers there. This will help with the longevity of the bearings also, to make everything run a lot smoother. Because if you're riding a lot of water or pressure cleaning your bike a heap, you'll also get premature wear. The bearings will rust out, and then your swing arm or your linkage will seize up, and it feels like your suspension's not working properly. Alright, just got a light bit of grease and smear it on that. And push that in there. Same with that cap. Push that in there. All good. We'll flip it over. Same again, just a little bit of grease in there. And then the cap. Push it in there. Rightio, that's the swing arm done. Easy as that. Now we'll move on to we'll do the linkage. Right, that one can go back in there. And then push that seal back in there. That one's done. I'll give it a bit of a wipe down before I put it back in. So that's swing arm ready to go back in. What we'll do, need to give and nice grease.
It doesn't need to be a ridiculous amount of grease on there because it pushes a lot of it off. Grease the whole way up and down it. Something like that.
That's it. Swing on, the link goes in the right way. It's got a locator there for the bolt, because the bolts don't have a nut on them, they've just got a flat. So it goes that way. You can sit in here, same again. That's a right smear of grease on the bolt. Alright, so got my torque wrench here. I have the specs for these bolts. I'm a strong believer in actually talking things to spec. I believe that's very critical within doing things right and doing things correctly. Make sure that way you have a peace of mind to know that this bike is always going to be safe, right, and nothing's going to come loose. So these link bolts here are all torqued up to 52 newton meters. Not left or right, over here. These torque wrenches, I've had this one for like 10 years, and I've had it ever since I started my apprenticeship, and it's still a good torque wrench, still accurate, and it was only like $120. So it's definitely something worth investing in if you don't have one. And I'm pretty fortunate as I do have access to the factory service manuals for these bikes. Next point, push the clips off. Just have to grab an extension. Right, then I'll torque this back. Just going to put the axle nut back on. And after not listening to my own advice again, I don't have the torque specs for this, but I'll just make sure it's tight for now. And I'll have to get it when I'm back at work. Beautiful. Well, that's all done now, and it only took probably about 45 minutes, and I believe, yeah, it's definitely something you should do if you're brand new bikes. Another thing we need to do with this bike is put an hour meter on it. It's got about 3 hours on it now, but I just want to put an hour meter on it, that way we can keep tabs of when to change the oil, like how many hours it's done, you know, just that all that kind of stuff. So we'll get into it. Alrighty, cut that off.
sure you plug that back in there. That comes loose. And then sit the tape back on. Okay, find a spot to mount this aluminium. Hopefully somewhere just stuck in there, tucked away. Won't work, let's grab the shroud. Make sure it's going to be hidden or sort of, you know, get out of the way. So it doesn't stand out too much. I might just tuck it down in there. Down in there like that. Some clean cloth and some brake clean. Stick that on there. And just fold this up. Underneath here. If I can get it through. Go through there. That way it's secure a little bit. Then I'll put it upside down. And just push that down in there so it wedges it in there nice. And then that can stick right there like that. And I'll just cut the excess wire off. You don't need the excess. Make sure that's extra clean.
So it's literally just a sticker.
Just a sticker. There we go. Job done. Pieces back together. Hopefully we get the suspension back. Well, probably not next week, the week after. I should have a steering at the mount this week and then put it all back together and then we can go testing. And I'm not the one riding this as well. This is for my partner, Laurie. She'll be racing in the women's class. And we're gonna give it a red hot crack, that's for sure.